Good morning, my magnificent ones. Sue Paulson here, your magnificence mentor. Welcome to Tea with Sue. Today I'm filled with thankfulness. Partly, I guess, because we're approaching Canadian Thanksgiving shortly this coming weekend, and I'm going to be with family. So that I have a lot to be grateful for, a lot to be thankful for. I'm also reminded, last night I was watching Steel Magnolias, the movie that, oh golly, it's an older movie, and I was watching it again, and I couldn't quite understand why I was watching it again, but I just did. And the emotion in that movie caught me just so strong. And I found myself just bawling, not just because of the emotional content of the movie, but because it triggered a remembrance that 55 years ago this week, my mother died. And now 55 years is a long time to be without your mom. And you would think that there wouldn't be a whole lot of angst about that and emotion anymore. And yet there was, it kind of blindsided me a little bit. And so I wept for a little while and realized, of course, all of the things that she missed. Now, she was 40 when she died, and I was 17, so I was young. And it's tough to lose your mom when you're a teenager, even though we had one of those typical rocky road kind of scenarios that moms and daughters have when a daughter's going through the teenage years. So there was lots that I fought against in relation to her. But at the end of it, when I've looked back on that experience and what that was like to have her and then not have her, and not only what she meant to me, but what she left me with, the legacy that she left, it was pretty astounding. And I am so thankful for all the experiences that I had with her. And of course, she left me with some words to live by, or some lessons to live by as part of that. Now, was my mom a saint? No, she was not a saint. She stumbled into motherhood like all mothers stumble into motherhood, like I did, not really knowing what it was going to be all about. And I'm sure she felt as overwhelmed as I did in having this little infant 24/7. And now when I was born, my folks lived in a 12-foot trailer on the rig lease that had really no running water. So Dad had to haul water from wherever he got it from, the well, or I don't know how they got water, but he had to haul it into the trailer. And that was water to wash, water to cook, water to make coffee, and of course water to wash clothes. And you can imagine diapers in the freezing. And I think when I was born in 1950, it was something like 40 below in Redwater, where I went back to after I was born. And so it was miserably, bitterly cold. So I can't imagine how my mom coped, because I had an older brother who was 2 years old. So then there were really probably two of us in diapers, and no Pampers in those days. It was cloth diapers. So I can't imagine what it must have took to get through that, and then come into the city finally and live a little easier life. But it was tough. And my mom was she was in her early 20s, I guess, when she had the first two. So there were four of us all together. I had three brothers and me. So when she died when I was 17, she, my youngest brother was 8, my next brother was 11, I was 17, and then my older brother was 19. And it left a big, big, big hole in our family. And in fact, our family just kind of shattered because she was the linchpin. She was the person who held everything together. Any social life that was going on around us, she organized. Any family get-togethers and celebrations, she organized. So one of the most delightful things that Mom gifted us with was the magic of Christmas. And there was something about Christmas and children that really was important to her. And so she worked diligently to make that holiday season special for us every year. Regardless of what we had or we didn't have financially, she worked hard to make that very, very special for us every year. And so she was a lot about celebrating special occasions. Birthdays were big things too for us. And you were really, really special on your birthday. You got to order whatever you wanted to eat. And I think fried chicken was my favorite or something. And angel food cakes were always the big deal. So that was your birthday cake, was an angel food cake. And they would, in those days, they would wrap they'd wrap coins in little pieces of wax paper and then tuck in under the cake. And so if you got money with your piece of birthday cake, wow, that was pretty special. So anyway, I have lots of very fond memories of how my mom created life for us to make it as nice as she could in lots of ways. Now, she also had things that bothered her, and she was no nonsense that way. She didn't tolerate rudeness. She didn't tolerate you being slack if the screen door was left open, and the flies came in the house. Oh, that was going to be a problem. So she had her ways. She never could stop smoking, and so that was a big thing, to her detriment, I think, in health-wise and so on, that once she started smoking, she couldn't quit, and that was an issue. And I think sometimes to ease some of the onslaught of life, then she was a little too fond of alcohol from time to time. So no, my mother wasn't a saint, and we didn't have the kind of the TV family that I grew up watching, Leave It to Beaver and so on, where there was this very perfect father and this very perfect mother. And no, we didn't have that. But we did have a family life that I am very, very grateful for, and I'm very thankful for. So what did I learn from my mother after all of this tragedy happened? And it was pretty traumatic, because we didn't know how to grieve in those days. It was just, suck it up and soldier on. So it took me years to come to terms with what I had really lost, and then more years to come to terms with, well, what had I really gained? What was it that my mother left for us, and for me specifically? Well, she probably lived more in her 40 years than most people in those days who were 80. She took opportunities when opportunities came her way to travel or experience new things. She would do it. And she wasn't afraid to try things that she didn't really know a whole lot about. I remember her writing little skits for the curling league, and for the end of the year celebration, the curling and the golf, and she'd write and produce direct these little skits. and they were funny. And she was very funny. She had a great sense of humor. And I also remember her taking driftwood and working in our shop on the farm for hours, sanding and smoothing this driftwood and making everything from lamps to ornaments to flower holders and so on out of this driftwood. So she could turn her hand to a variety of things. And she taught me how to bake cookies, and which to this day I'm grateful for. I'm kind of a cookie monster, actually. So she grabbed a hold of life, and even though she had had a tough childhood and a tough growing up time, and had tragedy in her own life, she had lost a fiance during the Second World War. He was a British pilot, and crashed. And so she suffered. There were things that went on in her life that were hard for her. But she never complained. I never heard her complain about life and how things were. She just carried on. She just did the best that she could. So some of the beautiful gifts that she gave, certainly in leaving, in transitioning from earth to the spirit realm, where I was left to my own devices, essentially, I learned to dig deep down into my own inner being and decide for myself, because all of a sudden the rules as I had known them and the path that I had been on evaporated, and I'm, whoa, okay, I guess it's up to me now. And what was so beautiful was that many other women that had already been in my life, whether they were aunts or my grandmothers or friends of my mom's, they stepped forward and nurtured me and mothered me along the way. So I was never without mothers. In fact, in losing my mom, I ended up gaining many, many moms who supported me. And there was a tribe of women who just kind of gathered around me and did what they could to just keep helping me move forward. And that, I'm so thankful for that, because I have lots of rich memories from those times when these other women gathered round. So I've come to really cherish the relationships that I have with the women in my life now, who are dear friends, and some of them I'm related to by marriage or blood, and some I'm not. But it doesn't matter, because there's this closeness and this richness that I really, really value. So my mom taught me that, because she was around women a lot, and the men were off working in the oil patch, so they were gone lots of the time, and there were stay-at-home moms, because typically moms didn't work outside the home in those days. They looked after the home and the kids, and when their husbands came home, looked after them. So that was kind of the status quo. So I was around women a lot, and she had a close group of very dear friends that she valued. So I really appreciate that now, that she modeled that for me, so that I in turn could move in that direction. So that was wonderful. And I think the other things that she taught me, she taught me to be kind. And there was that old saying, something about, if you have nothing good to say, don't say anything at all. And so I learned to not badmouth other people and think or say things that were unkind, because it was hurtful. And I also came to realize it was not only hurtful to them, but it was hurtful for me too, because I didn't feel good when I did that. And so she taught me that being kind was really, really important, regardless of who it was that you were dealing with. And she taught me how to be strong too. So when I was when I was going through cancer, there was something about that resilience that she showed and demonstrated when she was ill, and how she worked her way through that with a lot of grace and a lot of dignity. Well, somehow I absorbed that. And so when I was going through my absolutely toughest, darkest time, it was there for me, that core of, be strong, you can get through this. And I did. So I have so many things to be thankful for. And I guess in retrospect, although I'm sad that my mom never got to meet my son, her grandchild, and never got to experience her great grandchildren, she also didn't have to go through the misery of losing her own child when my youngest brother died suddenly in his 20s. And so there were things that she missed that I was glad about, because it would have been so painful for her to go through that. So that's life, right? There it's a sweet sour, that we have the good with the bad, the beautiful with things that can seem pretty ugly at the time. And we're here to experience it all. We're here to come to our own conclusions about that, what that means for us, and what it meant for me to have my mom, even for such a short time. She packed a lot of learning for me into 17 years. And when I look at the takeaway, the gifts that I brought from that relationship, they were significant. They were totally significant in helping me move forward and do what was important to me. Because at the core of it, she left me with the idea that I could do and tackle anything in my life and succeed, that it was possible to just broaden my horizons and put myself out there and pack a lot of life into whatever time a person has. Well, I think I fulfilled that dream of hers. I have packed an awful lot of life into the years that I have, and I firmly believe that I have a whole lot more I can pack into my life from here on, for however many days, weeks, months, years that I have. So this week, I thought it would be helpful for all of us to reflect a little bit, to give thanks for what has come before us, what has gone on in our lives up to this point, the people that have been there to influence us in any way. Neale Donald Walsch said in his book, Conversations with God, God saying, I have sent you nothing but angels. Well, every person whose path we cross, or who crosses our path, is an angel in some way, shape, and form. Even if they show up as the worst villain ever, they teach us something. They give us an experience that helps us sort things out for ourselves and decide, yes, this, not that. I'd rather have this than this. And so we go. So that's what I wanted to share with you this week. I'm looking forward to turkey and pumpkin pie, which is the usual fare for Thanksgiving. And I wish you everything. If you're in the States and you don't celebrate Canadian Thanksgiving, well, you can, because you're welcome to join us, right? So anyway, until next week, my dear friends, take the best care you can of you, and I look forward to seeing you next time on Tea with Sue.